Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Capnclydes MTG. Today, we have my top picks for cards to affect the standard format. So, there's going to be a lot of cards, and I'm going to be honest with you, there's a lot of good cards in Karlov Manor. So, it's really hard to pick, but I did narrow it down to a top 5, in my opinion. That doesn't mean other cards won't be worth money and won't see play. But I think these are the cards that are really going to shape the format when they first come out of the gate and maybe shape the format moving forward. So, before we get started, don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all the comments and all that other good stuff. Links in the description. TCG, the eBay store, all that good jazz. Patreon's in there if you want to go old school. But we got memberships on the channel, so we can start doing some live streams as soon as we get a few members. And don't forget, you can easily subscribe for free and just watch the channel. That's all that really needs to happen. And, maybe find out why ShamWow hasn't called me, but we'll get past that point. So, I'm not salty, I swear. We're also on Rumble. Check us out there. So, without further ado, everybody, let's take a look at some of the top standard cards I believe are going to shape the format. We're going to start off with an honorable mention. War Leader's Call. This is a basic crusade. Oh, is that a bad word? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, white, red, and 1. All your creatures get +1/+1. Basic crusade style pump spell. We've seen cards like this in the past be really good at single colors that normally give an extra ability. The extra ability on this one is whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. In a token deck, this would be really good if that's something that springs up in the new format that can actually abuse this effect. This is also not a legendary effect, so you can have multiple of these in play. And this may be good enough. When creatures come in, if you start bolting your opponent when they hit the battlefield, plus they come into play with +3/+3, this could really get out of hand really quick. But with that being said, it can be a dead draw late in the game when you need action. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. We'll have to see how it plays out. But I'll give it an honorable mention because who knows? We might see this bad boy come to life. All right, we're going to start off today with number 5, the Reckless Detective. Not a lot of action from this. Haven't heard people talking about it, so hear me out. A red and 1 for an 0/3. Yes, that sucks. What was I going to say? No, I'm serious. So this is an 0/3. Shock is going to be real prevalent in the format. A lot of 2 damage spells are currently prevalent. This is an 0/3. It's only a red and 1. It does take 2 mana. But here's the thing. Whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice an artifact or discard a card. If you do, draw a card, and it gets +2/+0. So, hear me out. You don't have artifacts. Don't even care. Don't even play artifacts. Play Mono Red Burn, Mono Red Rush, whatever. But the cool thing here is if you draw a land card or another card that you know is dead, you can attack with this, discard that card, draw your new card, make this a 2/3, and run through your deck like it's hot knife through butter. And that's what a Red Rush deck needs to happen. So I really think that this card is going to really solidify that in a deck like that. And with Standard being at a kind of a lower power level with not as many cards that you can abuse as the older formats, this probably ain't good enough for some of the older formats, but I do think this is good enough to make the list for Standard. All right, moving on. Next we have, yep, you guessed it, no witnesses. And why? Well, I think Wrath of God is pretty good. At least it was back in the day. A white and 2, 4 mana. Each player who controls the most creatures investigates. Then you destroy all creatures. Yes, someone's going to get a token that they can investigate with. Man, that sucks. But it's been a while. A hot minute. Almost never. Since we've seen a 4 mana Wrath. Flat out Wrath. I mean, this is Wrath of God. Except somebody's going to get a clue token. And I'm going to be honest with you. If that's the worst thing that they do, I think I'm okay with that. So, yeah, Wrath of God still sees play in a lot of the older formats and in Commander and what have you. This is going to be one of the premium board wipes at 4 mana, especially since most of the other board wipes that are currently being played that are good are at 5. Do you think extra mana matters? Well, against Red Rush or any other weenie deck getting an extra swing on you, it definitely matters. Moving on to number 3, we have No More Lies. White, blue, instant counter target spell unless its controller plays 3 colorless. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it in its owner's graveyard. First off, exiling a spell, pretty sweet. This is Mana Leak, because it says counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. It's a white, it's a blue. A little more constrictive than Mana Leak, but Mana Leak sees play in Modern. And I'm here to tell you, this card is just as good. We've seen a lot of spells like this come out in the past that people have really been specking on that how good they are. But we've never really had a Mana Leak reprint with the only disadvantage being it's 2 colored mana. But because of the extra color, you get to exile the card instead of putting it in someone's graveyard. That matters from Graveyard Shenanigans all the way up in this set to things like Collect Evidence, where you have to get cards out of your graveyard to do other things. So this is going to be one of the premium removal spells because, again, it counters anything. Most spells that cost 2 mana are only, at best, pay 2 colorless. This one is 3, and there's no drawbacks. There's no extra hoops to jump through. This is a premium removal spell as far as counters go. So, also, when you kind of look at the fact that this is in a set that has Wrath of God, I mean, blue-white control anyone? Back from the old days, Kaljoran Outpost. We don't have Kaljoran Outpost. Anybody even know what that is? Sorry, I got a little old school on you. Anyway, this is number 3 because this counter spell tells no lies. All right, moving on, we're at number 2, and this bad boy, I think, does not get enough love. Case of the Crimson Pulse. Red, 2 colorless. When this case enters the battlefield, you discard a card and then draw 2. Already okay, but for 3 mana, probably not good enough. However, to solve it, you have to have no cards in your hand. I'll be honest with you, if you're playing a Red Rush deck, that's not real hard. And when it's solved, it stays on the battlefield and says, at the beginning of your upkeep, discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. Let me repeat that again for those in the cheap seats. At the beginning of your upkeep, discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. Let me go through this state. Let me go through that for you. Untap, upkeep, draw. You're going to draw with this on the battlefield 3 cards a turn. That is absurd. And again, not legendary. You can play more than one. And if you're playing Red Rush with this and you get this on the battlefield, you don't care if your opponent is playing Wrath of God, like we just saw. Because guess what? You're going to draw 3 to 5 cards a turn and just make more dudes. You're going to outdraw the blue-white control deck with this, and probably any other deck known to man. This thing is absurdly good, and I don't think it's getting enough love, and I really think this one's going to be the sleeper of the set, because I just don't know how you beat your opponent drawing 3 cards a turn instead of 1, while you're drawing 1 card a turn. This is just absurd. Absurd, absurd, absurd. So, yeah, take that to the bank and smoke it. Never mind. Anyway, moving on. All right, so we're going in for the number 1 card to affect Standard. Yeah, you probably could have guessed it. It's Assassin's Trophy. And if you didn't guess it, you apparently didn't play the last time this card was in Standard, because this thing was in every deck that played green-black. And when I mean every deck, I mean pretty much all the decks, because there weren't many other colors. Yes, you get to give your opponent a land, but in Standard, that's really not that big of a benefit. I am not going to lie to you. Yeah, it does help, and it does do things, and it can be a disadvantage, yada, yada, yada. But the ability to destroy a target permanent an opponent controls. Let me say that again. Destroy target permanent an opponent controls. Yeah, they'll get a land, but guess what? This blows up lands too. So if they've got a land that's giving you hassle or giving them extra mana, just kill it and let them swap it out for a basic land. If they've got a dual land or a creature land, you ain't got to wait for them to even activate it. Just on your discard, hey, blow that shit up. Get it out of here. So I don't think everybody is. Granted, this may feel like a little lower on the power level, but I really still think that this is going to be premium removal and cause a lot of mono black decks to start splashing green because as far as removal goes, this is too good. So, with all that said, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I do appreciate it. Until next time, be kind, and as always, I hope to see you across from the game table. I'm going to do Popper next. I never do Popper second. Maybe I'll do it first one of these days.